Hello, welcome back to another video. Today we had news, or technically yesterday, we had news for the Bushiroad summer announcement where they talk about their future plans for their main TCGs and any other stuff they're doing, for example, their music. So we have Vanguard, Buddyfight, and Weiss Schwarz, which are basically their three biggest properties. And of course, we're talking about mostly Buddyfight. I might reference stuff from the other three, but again, we're focusing specifically on Buddyfight. So I want to say that this is going to be more of a discussion video, so feel free to just tune out and just listen to this in the background, whether it be snacks or whatever. There's a lot of things I want to talk about and give my opinion on, especially when it comes to the crossovers that got revealed and other content, specifically based on what Bushiroad has done in the past. So first off, I'm going to talk about the summary of things that got revealed. So first off, we have set 6 for Future Card Buddyfight Ace, and that is basically with vegetables, so that April Fool's prank for Japan, which in case you don't know, it's actually a Danger World deck, so I'm really excited if we can get that in English, but that is going to be officially released in Japan. We also have Double Horus Evolution, so more support for Legend Dragons, a new Legend World archetype, as well as G-Boost Heart, so the third G-Boost after Technique and Body, which we had those already released for War Dragons, and then preceding it, Dragonite. So also, we have crossovers, and this is where things get a little bit complicated. So the crossovers that we got are Gegege no Kitaro, we have SSSS Gridman, and lastly, SAO, aka Sword Art Online. Now, the first one I really don't know anything about. Apparently, it's a really old, I think it was from the 1960s, yokai anime, so that's what that is, in case you don't know what it is. SS Gridman, I've heard things about it. It seems decent, but I haven't actually watched it myself. And then Sword Art Online, which seems to be the one that people are really hating on just for it being in Buddyfight, and it's already in Weiss Schwarz, so it seems really rhetorical of like Bushiroad just to do this. It's really odd, but anyways, I want to talk more about crossovers later, but let's talk about the other products. We also have the ultimate deck for K, and now K is a card, or sorry, not a card, it's a character that got revealed in Koro Koro, which is basically another relevant character which you saw in Koro Koro, and he's basically going to be the antagonist because following the patterns we've seen, because he's getting his own special ultimate set, like for example, what we got for Lost Dimension with Yuga, and you know, all the other previous antagonists is like Wisdom, and what's his name? Ikazuchi also getting their own trial decks, so we're going to be getting that, so that's pretty hype. So something new, hopefully a new flag. Apparently I've heard rumors that it's going to involve something around a new zone outside the deck, something similar to Lost World. I hope that isn't the case, but you know what, we'll never know. And there's also a silhouette of his buddy, which I'll put up on screen as well. So moving on, we also have reveals that Bushiroad's actually releasing a Bushi Navi app, and it's going to be able to allow you to officially register for tournaments. Again, this is only for Japan. Bushiroad for English has not put out anything yet, as far as I know, or at the recording of this video. So that's going to be interesting. They didn't say anything about the show, and another thing that I'm sure a lot of people were upset about is that there was no announcement for the anime whatsoever. Nothing. The manga will continue, and they did announce and say on the live stream basically that the main characters, the ones that were already revealed in the sets, so Miru, Hikaru, aka the Demon Dragon user, Hikaru being the Primordial Dragon user. We also have Al, which is using Legend Dragons, Yuga, and of course Kei as well. So those are going to be the relevant characters in this second arc of Ace, which is continuing in the manga. Also, Gao appears as well, so that sounds really interesting. I don't want to talk about that because I have no clue what's happening for that. All I've seen is screenshots that are posted online of it, and I haven't actually, of course, gone and bought it yet because it's not localized, and I have failed to find any Buddyfight manga within my region. Anyways, moving on, there's a lot of stuff to talk about the crossovers, and when it comes to the SAO crossover, I feel like people do have that opinion of the meme. It's like, nobody really asked for this, and Bushiroad kind of just did it, and again, it's rhetorical because Weiss Schwarz is already part of it, and it's really, really weird. Again, there's also no announcements for any kind of video game, no mobile game, PC or console, nothing like that. So no game, no anime, just more crossovers. I think the ultimate set for K for the antagonist deck is pretty hype. At least we know that's coming and we're getting more content, something new within the game that isn't just crossovers recycling things. So I have something more scripted down here which I want to talk about because there's a lot of things I want to talk about, specifically about Bushiroad and Buddyfight and how things have really changed. So when it comes to crossovers, I think basically the reason of it is that it can introduce new gimmicks and possibilities for new ideas for cards, but most of the time it reuses things. For example, Ambush. I think Black Organization was a cool concept, but it became way too strong. Like as soon as people just got it out, like Bushiroad realized they made a mistake, and it was errata. They also have a lot of cards that just stop returning cards. Stop returning monsters from field to hand. So that kills decks like 72 Pillars as well for the most part. So yeah, that really hurts. There's also Rainbow Promise in Japan, which is a big generic card which stops milling of opponent's decks. So mill decks are pretty much dead there as well. But anyways, SS Gridman, I've already talked about. It's kind of something close to like Hero World that I believe, the cards that we'll get. I don't think it's going to be exactly the same, but maybe Ride, Transform, some cool stuff like that. At least something, because Hero World wasn't in the new Ultimate set either. The Heisei Fighters that had, Yamieto, support for Dungeons, Star Dragon World. We got nothing for that, so I'm hoping something like that will show up. But what I want to say specifically about the crossovers is that SAO and Buddyfight shouldn't be hated for it, but I mean, it's hard to say that people aren't upset by this, especially the people that are part of the Buddyfight community. They're just either confused or just enraged that SAO is in this for whatever the reason, when I'm sure Bushiroad had lots of other options available to them. I'm sure that when they go through what crossovers to choose, they obviously do look at things, whether either things that will be similar between the audiences that they want to appeal to, or what to get people into the game. Because obviously when these crossovers come out, the only reason is for them to basically get more people in the game or to just promote sales. Like, let's be real, that's really the only reason that these exist specifically for Buddyfight. Weiss Schwarz is built off of those properties and basically relies on them. The ones that Bushiroad buys, a lot of animes, like you have Idol, you have JoJo that they announced, just a ton of animes that are already in the game that obviously are there to promote Weiss Schwarz and to get people to purchase the app. Sorry, not the app, what am I saying? The cards for Weiss Schwarz and specifically. But that's a whole other TCG. Basically, what I'm trying to say is that they usually reuse these concepts for these kind of decks, and it doesn't really feel original, and it doesn't really feel like it brings any new gameplay or mechanisms to the gameplay. Like, we had Chaos Territory for left and right for Bang Dream, but that was already a thing in the Chaos, and that just really, like, you could tell it was there just to be a selling point. Like, obviously they have to make these crossovers powerful enough, or else they just won't sell. People won't buy them. Like, there's no reason to. And I think that's a big thing, especially for English English as well, for the Conan set, in case you don't know. Bourbon and what was his name? The Draw 2 spell as well that lets you look at your opponent's hand. Those two were both errata in Japan. And I think that definitely drew a lot of people away from buying it in English, because they knew eventually that it would somehow get nerfed either way. And that would basically make your deck worthless at that point, because Bourbon, whatever the pronunciation is really important for getting you gauge and dealing damage, and he can steal gauge too, which is very important. And that Draw 2 spell was really good, especially the fact that you get to look at your opponent's hand, and now has a really hard limitation. So that really hurts for specifically the Conan set. I still think it's a fun deck. I don't know what the sales are. I have no clue, but that's just speaking from my opinion and from what I've seen. They feel like filler, but I think they can have a place in Buddyfight, but it feels like Bushiroad is really relying on them at this point, and I don't think the community, at least for those outside of Japan, aren't really enjoying them as much. I think it's cool to get that, but at this point when they're pushing out so many crossovers without any news on manga or anime even being localized outside of Japan to that audience that isn't necessarily like their biggest within Japan and Singapore, it's really weird and definitely upsetting to a lot of people, especially those who are in, let's say, North America and Europe. It's just really weird at the same time, and just really disappointing. Some people are really upset, some people are angered. It really depends on what your opinion is, but Buddyfight is definitely in a really weird place with these crossovers. Okay, so I think that basically covers crossovers. I want to talk about some other things about the company when it comes to products. Again, I just want to give a quick background, because I don't want to say I've been in the competitive community. I've definitely wanted to get into it as much. I've only been to 2 official Bushiroad events, technically. I've been to, like, a few shop tourneys, just, like, messing around with stuff. There's also, from my background, I've basically been keeping up with Buddyfight ever since the beginning. A year, I think, after the anime started was when I followed it. Like, obviously, it had a manga, but it was the anime that came out first, and then, all the way from set 1. I didn't start really collecting sets until I'd probably say maybe Darkness Fable, but I never actually bought the products. I just went with trial decks at first, just to see how Buddyfight would be. So, and of course, obviously, I live outside Japan. I live in Canada, North America. Very different from Singapore and those other regions. So I want to give a quick background on that, because I believe that's important compared to other people's opinions. Anyways, what I think the community needs is more transparency between the company and the players and what they're trying to accomplish. I think Ace and the marketing team or the people behind it have been doing a better job. There was that whole survey about, you know, do you want us to provide better products for a better price or an entry price into tournaments? Like, a lot of people would prefer free, but I mean, they also offer that Japan trip too for those who win the regionals. And I think that's definitely one of the biggest appeals for Buddyfight in specific, because, like, to people who you know, are paying money for these full-blown decks, they want to be able to do something with them. Obviously, they're buying just to support the game and to have fun, but I think that trip to Japan is a huge appeal of it, and having better prizes to get more people to actually go instead of just staying at home or just playing online and actually buying the cards and getting into the game is very important. Okay, another thing I want to talk about, okay, actually, I want to give some more examples of that. You have the products and their appeal to playmat art. The Buddyfight channel put up a video about that, asking, you know, how do you want the art? Do you want it to be vertical or horizontal for the playmat? They have stuff promoting it, talk to their audiences, so a lot more interaction from the Buddyfight channel, which I think was nice. It didn't seem too well planned, but it was at least something. They also had stuff about PSAs for how to prepare for the events. I think that was pretty nice too, even though there wasn't really too much encouragement behind it, but their campaigns are still not bad. So stuff, you know, how they were talking about how to prepare yourself for tournaments, player etiquette. I think that was nice. Not necessarily what people want to see, especially when a lot of the fan base of the people subscribe to the official Buddyfight channel are a lot of people who are consumers, are more fans than the actual consumers and players, is basically what I'm trying to say. So there's also that whole thing about judge issues and that banned player, but that's a whole other thing that I don't really plan to talk about. Anyways, moving on, I think that myself as a community outside, or living outside of Japan, needs to see more outreach for Buddyfight, because there's basically nothing. With the anime not here, there isn't really a big encouragement or reason to play the game, unless you have other friends or people who are either online or in real life or locally who encourage you to play the game. And I think I really felt that, especially during the end of Ace, or actually before the beginning of Ace. I wasn't necessarily hating the game or didn't want to play it. I just didn't really felt like I had a reason. Like, of course I still enjoyed the game and loved it, but it didn't really feel like there was much encouragement to go and play the game, especially after the ending of X, which was a disaster. But you know, All-Star Fight was nice, but I'm getting off track. Basically what I'm trying to say is that Buddyfight relies a lot on local and mouth-to-mouth advertising from people, and I think a lot of people who get into Buddyfight will either say that they've got through their friends or an online community, or through one of other Bushiroad's other games, especially a lot of people who did come over from Vanguard to Buddyfight, or maybe even vice versa. So I think that's really great. There hasn't been any news, which I kind of predicted of maybe other crossovers like Buddyfight being in Vanguard. They did have that one or two cards, like for example we got Dragonic Overlord in Buddyfight, which is pretty cool, but that was only a promo in Japan, and from what I've heard and from what I've seen, there's basically no plan for that to come and be localized. That'd be really cool if we did get like a shop promo or something like that, or I don't know if they did at Japan Expo. I think they did, or it was one of the generic promos, but correct me if I'm wrong on that. I might be. But basically what I'm trying to say is that when it comes to the franchise, when people see things like the crossovers of the official anime, they're either turned towards it or they're just turned away. They don't want to get involved with it, or they're based off their specific interpretation of Buddyfight, or maybe ignoring it, because honestly there isn't much advertisement for places outside of Singapore or Japan, because Bushiroad knows that their main audience is there. They don't really feel like they take a risk of putting content and advertising outside of that, you know, besides the official Buddyfight channel, but that only goes so far. And unfairly as it is, if you compare that to the Japanese Buddyfight channel, they are honestly a joke when you compare the quality and the content of those videos. Obviously the Japanese Buddyfight channel is a bigger appeal to younger audiences, but it's still a joke, the kind of content that they put out. But they have been doing better. They've been trying new things, so I'm hoping that going to the next year we'll see something better. But if you compare like the quality of the fight videos, it's pretty bad. Honestly can't speak because I haven't even been uploading Buddyfight fights videos, but yeah, it's pretty bad when you make that kind of comparison. And again, biggest examples of exposure are always the anime and now the crossover sets as well. And the crossover sets definitely do give an opinion to people, especially when we go back to talking about SAO being announced. A lot of people are going to be either just memeing that, or they're just going to want to stay away from Buddyfight specifically because of that. And it probably will bring more people. Like, I can't really deny that the SAO being in Buddyfight isn't going to bring more people, like it's hurting the game. but I don't think it's what the community needed, and really no one asked for this, so it's just a really weird decision on the part of Bushiroad. There is some logical sense behind it, but again, its appeal to the community, to the actual Buddyfight community, isn't great, and again, I already talked about that for crossovers. So another thing that I want to talk about is marketing. And for someone who lives outside of Japan, there is virtually, again, as I said, no advertising besides the anime. And when it comes to the actual shops that actually do these events, a lot of the times they either don't have enough players or can't get enough people to come out and try the game. And I think that was a big thing, because I was honestly really disappointed when I heard about the caravan for Buddyfight Ace, because Buddyfight Ace was something huge, and it has obviously brought a lot of big growth to the game for Buddyfight, you know, this specific season. But when they first did the caravan for Ace, barely any people showed up, and they didn't do much except for specific states, I believe in the US and Singapore. I might be missing a few besides that, but as far as I know, we barely had any caravans for Buddyfight, or maybe Bushiroad staff had it on them as well, but not too many were really given out. I do know some shops and some people within my area that randomly just got it or obtained it for some reason or another, but there wasn't really like a big community or shops really organizing these kind of caravans, or at least nothing that I heard of at the time. So it's kind of weird that there wasn't an international caravan. I think that could have really helped out a lot, especially when it comes to it. The way that the Bushiroad marketing team does things is really weird. Ace mentioned this as well. I thought the summer live stream would mention this more, but specifically for Buddyfight, I know the marketing has changed a lot, especially within what was it, Triple D to Ace. A lot of things changed in the marketing team. Maybe that could explain some things, but they definitely had a lot of changes within the Buddyfight team, and it has brought some good and bad changes from all sides, but I still think it's still in a weird place. And I think the main, I don't want to say the main issue, but a lot of people who do watch the show or are fans of specifically the content of Buddyfight can't afford or don't wish to spend huge amounts of money on decks, because it just doesn't work. Specifically when it comes to shops, they either can't afford it or it isn't available to them, so they have to buy it online, and then that just brings more prices and that drives more people away. I think consumers, basically what I'm trying to say is that the consumers of the content aren't necessarily the same people as the product, and I think Bushiroad could do a better job of distinguishing between that. Again, Ace honestly has just been better at doing everything, but having these crossovers just brings a really weird opinion between that, especially when there isn't really more anime and other content besides online novels, which they never localize as well. It's only in Japanese on the Buddyfight channel. There's no official translation. I know Baru on the wiki did some fan translations. I don't know if he did the Hikaru one. Did you did the Meru one? And it's on the wiki. I'll link it if you guys want to see it. But besides that, there isn't any other content, and it's really weird to see this between how Bushiroad does things. Another thing I want to bring up is for Pokemon and TCG, they also have these blister packs, and specifically in Japan, they have these as well as special products. It's actually on the Buddyfight website for the Japanese version. They have little blister packs, and they'll give specific promo cards. An example of this is, let's say, Chaos Gao, because we actually got him as a card. I don't remember if it's in English yet. I don't remember if it was a promo. I don't even remember if we got him in English. I think we did sometime. But he was basically a special golden card that you could get with a few blister packs of the Climax set. And I think that'd be a really cool thing to get outside of Japan into other countries. And I'm sure a lot of people who can't necessarily afford huge boxes or maybe the special series, even though I think the special series and special decks are great entries into the series, I think it'd still be really cool to get that kind of promotion, even though I know Bushiroad, just cost-wise, only wants to do certain things, like, they'll only want to ship out only crates, or sorry, what's it called? Not play sets, boxes of only cases, which include several boxes, or, only special selections, so that they can try and minimize the kind of repercussions that they get, or the negatives, when it comes to selling Buddyfight. Especially when Buddyfight was really dead during a certain time before Ace, like during X, it was pretty bad during then. But I'm kind of ranting on and on. I think you guys get the point. It's really just a really weird way of saying that Bushiroad has a weird way of doing things when it comes to selling Buddyfight content and the way that they want to distribute it. It's understandable. It makes sense, I'm assuming, from their perspective as well. And I don't want to say any more on this because I'll probably confuse myself or you guys because I'm not really a business person, but it doesn't really make sense, at least from a consumer perspective, from a fan of Buddyfight, is basically what I'm trying to say. Okay, now after that whole cluster of just information and me ranting, I don't really think there's much else to say regarding these announcements. It's hard to say that I'm not disappointed because I am. I was definitely looking for something for the anime. I think Bushiroad choosing the specific word hiatus specifically means that they had the intention to bring back the anime eventually. I think it'd be way too much, especially because they broke off the studio to, you know, get a studio back and already have stuff animated and have a teaser now. I think next year is more realistic, and the anime season that Bushiroad usually airs is in April, so we'd probably get news around winter or fall, maybe at the earliest. So I don't think the anime is necessarily gone. I think you can still hold on to hope for that. But, yeah, nothing from this at all. And there was also something very interesting is the Bushi Navi app, which I already talked about. We don't know if that will get localized. Maybe I'll do an update video or something if Bushiroad makes an official statement, because, again, I haven't seen a localization, official basically statement put out by Bushiroad on either the Buddyfight website or on their Facebook. And also something else I want to randomly bring out is Twitter. There is no Twitter account for Buddyfight for some reason. I really don't know why. I'm sure they can have someone that can manage both the Facebook and Twitter account, but even games like Weiss Schwartz, Vanguard, and even the official Bushiroad company has their own Twitter account. For some reason, Buddyfight doesn't have one. For English. I know Japanese does, but English doesn't have one. And to me, that's really odd for some reason, especially when a lot of people, Buddyfight-wise, are on Twitter and really like to be on there. So I think that's just a really strange thing that I want to bring up. But besides that, there really isn't much else to say. I think the crossovers are generally not a bad thing or a bad intention from Bushiroad, but it's definitely something that could have been handled better, or could have been maybe advertised differently than how it is. Again, I'm just saying random things out of the blue without giving more points, and I had better points scripted earlier, so that's why this is kind of random. But yeah, thank you guys so much for watching. Sorry about the audio. I kind of had to fix that up, and I also had actually the Conan Runner game, which I know some people don't really like that much. I actually had a video recording for that, and it has a gacha, so I did summons, but the audio and the video were out of sync, so that's why you haven't seen too many uploads up. But yeah, definitely some interesting stuff from Bushiroad. Please tell me your opinions on everything that I just talked about. There's a lot of things. Whether you be a consumer, whether you buy the cards, whether you're simply just here to watch Buddyfight content on YouTube, or even if you don't care, or maybe you're a fan or player of the other games, or maybe not even any Bushiroad game, then feel free to do whatever you like. I don't really care. Comments, like, subscribe, whatever. And I'll see you guys later in the next Buddyfight video.